Yeah, go ahead, Chelsea. All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon session. I just want to, first of all, thank the Rock River Coalition for coordinating this session. It is a lot of work to coordinate a virtual event, so hats off to them, and it's a lot of work, so thank you for bringing us all here today. We're very excited about this afternoon session. My name is Michelle Probst. I am a natural resource educator with UW-Madison Division of Extension. I'm based in Madison, but I mainly work throughout the Rock River Basin, doing education and outreach on water quality and soil conservation. I'm very excited about this session because we have two representatives from the Fox Lake Inland District. We have Tracy Zemlo, who's the executive director of the district, and we have Dale Mahale, who is wearing many hats a lot of times, but today he's going to wear his hat of being a farmer within the Fox Lake watershed, but he is also commissioner on the district. So we're very excited to have them talk about the initiatives in Fox Lake. And then we have Craig Ficenec, who is a program director with the SandCounty Foundation. And he will be talking about prairie strips and prairie strips that were implemented in Dodge at a farm in Dodge County, and how partnerships were really able to make those practices be implemented. And so really that's the theme that we're going to really hit home today. Any sort of questions you can put into the Q&A side that will be on your right-hand side of the EventMobi app. So just put your Q&A questions in there and we will get to them throughout the presentation. And we'll have 10 minutes at the end for Q&A. So first, just as we think of the Rock River Basin and where we are tuning in from today, we're all thinking of a specific place, whether it's a water body, the city that we live in or recreate in. We all have a lot of love and appreciation for the area that we are very lucky to live in. And as we look at the Rock River Basin, we can see that there's many people who have an interest in water quality. We have a lot of stakeholders within this watershed that we really want to activate and come together to help solve our water quality issues. So when we talk about a stakeholder, the EPA defines 5 different types of stakeholders: people who are responsible for implementing, people who are affected by implementation, those who can provide information about the watershed, those have knowledge of existing programs or watershed plans, and then those that can provide technical information to help you develop or implement your plan. And as I, describe some of those types of stakeholders, you're probably thinking of, specific, local to federal government officials, any nonprofit organizations or non-governmental associations, business reps, farmers, landowners, just people who are overall interested in water quality. And as I'm listing off these possible stakeholders or was talking about the types of stakeholders, you were probably having some stakeholders in mind, and you're probably developing a list in your head. And once you develop that list, this comes the hardest part. You have your list of stakeholders. Well, now what do? We know who we want at the table to help solve water quality, but how are we going to get there? And what we're really trying to do is we're trying to build a community of interest. And so these are individuals or communities, stakeholders that come together around a shared watershed management objective. And this is way easier said than done, right? Because it really takes building intentional relationships to really understand each other, but then also work together to build shared management objectives. And so we're going to be talking a lot about examples that are happening within Dodge County and how coming together for shared watershed management objectives is really important. And so one group that is helping facilitate this is the Dodge County Alliance for Healthy Soil and Healthy Water. Just a quick little bit of history about them. obviously we're within Dodge County here, within the Rock River Basin. Back in 2015, a citizen task force was formed by the Land Conservation Committee. It consisted of farmers, like lake representation, Land Conservation Department, DNR, Extension, and really they all had to come together to devise a workable plan to address non-point source pollution. Again, easier said than done, right? And I'm sure there was a lot of difficult meetings, but they came out with some really early decisions, is that they wanted to collaborate more and to really develop solutions to address non-point source pollution from, from both a shoreline property perspective, but then also from an agricultural perspective. They also realized through this group that that there's a real need out there for farmers to more connect with each other about opportunities to promote conservation on their land and within their community as well. So this led to the formation of the Dodge County Farmers for Healthy Soil, Healthy Water. And then the alliance is will always be there to consist of everyone who has an interest in soil and water health. So this is the alliance as it looks like now. 2020 did not stop them at all. They became an incorporated 501c3 nonprofit. They have a 7-person board, of which is roughly divided in half between lake representation and members from the farmers group. And actually, one of the co-chairs, Andrew Condon of the alliance, who's a farmer with the farmers group, he describes the alliance as the kitchen table. The alliance is the kitchen table, and then all of the other organizations have a seat at the kitchen table where they can come and talk about solutions. To learn more, they also do have a website that they just developed this year as well. So make sure you check out their website. And then really for what the alliance does, these are their strategic goals, is to really help support projects that gain further knowledge on soil health, to improve water quality, promote the adoption of practices, whether that is from an ag perspective or from a shoreline property or an urban perspective. And they really want to continue to build relationships between all stakeholders to really help promote water quality improvement strategies. And then overall share the successes of the programs to communicate the impact of the alliance. So there is an event coming up. If you want to hear more about the alliance and the farmers group within Dodge County, a group fishers and farmers that work throughout the Mississippi River Basin are featuring Dodge County as part of their Boots on the Ground webinar series. And so I will post a link to that. I think the easiest place might be the Q&A for now, because I can't reach you via the chat. So I'll post it in the Q&A if you're interested to learn more about and attend this event. It's March 18th at 1 p.m. So as we want to talk about the communicate the importance of this alliance and the relationships that have been able to be built through all of these stakeholders coming together on shared management objectives, we really wanted to feature the incentive program that Fox Lake has worked to put on together. So here today we have Tracy Zemlo and Dale Mahale, who are both going to talk about the cover crop incentive program that Fox Lake has worked to implement this year. So with that, Tracy and Dale, I will hand it over to you all.
Thank you, Michelle. Good afternoon to everybody, and thank you for joining. As Michelle stated, my name is Tracy. I'm the Executive Director with the Fox Lake Inland Lake District. A bit of history for those unfamiliar with the Fox Lake Inland Lake District. Our mission here at the Lake District is to protect and rehabilitate Fox Lake through in-lake and watershed practices, maintaining the district's wastewater collection system, and also maintaining our jointly owned wastewater treatment plant as well. So the Fox Lake Inland Lake District works with watershed residents, the DNR, the Dodge County Land and Water Development, Dodge County Healthy Soil, Healthy Water farmers groups, the NRCS, and our environmental consultants as well. We strive to provide education, information, technical assistance through economic planning and ecological research. The Fox Lake watershed is about approximately 35,600 acres in size, draining areas into Dodge, Fond du Lac, Green Lake, and Columbia counties. The watershed consists of rolling hills and plains distributed throughout the wetlands, and about 70% of the watershed is in agricultural land use. That's why it is so important to establish a great working relationship with our area farmers and producers. So, and on that note, I would like to introduce my partner here today, Dale Mahale, who will inform you of his involvement and connection with the Fox Lake District and the Dodge County area.
Thank you, Tracy. I'm going to review a little bit what Michelle said, but from a farmer's perspective. I am a farmer, so how did I become a commissioner of the Fox Lake District? And how did we get where we are today? Well, it was about 12 years ago, I was elected to serve in the Dodge County FSA, Farm Service Agency County Committee. All county FSA officers have farmers elected by their peers to give the local FSA office guidance. And the FSA is a branch of the United States Department of Agriculture. This committee then asked me to represent them on the Dodge County Land Conservation Committee, which is now called the Land and Water Conservation Committee. After serving 2 years on this committee, they asked me to be their representative on the Fox Lake Lake District. About the same time that I became a member of the Fox Lake District, a local resident from Dodge County, a retired DNR employee, requested that Dodge County adopt a buffer ordinance. That is like a 50-foot buffer around all streams, drainage ditches, bodies of water, etc. This was very controversial. And Mark Bethke, who was the Dodge County Con at the time, chose to have public comments on this proposal by forming a special committee of farmers, lake residents, government people, and others. Meanwhile, there had been a couple of manure runoffs in the county. So this first meeting was hot and hostile. There was shouting, finger pointing. It was in danger of just falling apart. I remember Amber Raddatz from Discovery Farms, who was asked to be a moderator at this first meeting, having a very cool head, answering difficult questions, and at least allowing some progress in getting the sides to at least listen to each other. This group evolved and continues to meet to this day, and it's now called, what Michelle said, the Dodge County Healthy Soil, Healthy Water Alliance. I became a member of this group, as well as our local DADCAP producer-led watershed, the Farmers for Dodge County Healthy Soil and Healthy Water. One of our farmers group's first projects was developing a CCIP program where we would provide financial assistance for farmers in the county to plant cover crops. And as a result of the Lake District commissioners attending the Alliance meetings and become educated on soil health, cover crops, etc., they decided they wanted to help farmers around the lake plant covers with the thought of improving water quality. Next slide. So that started out. Are you done, Tracy? Or you want to add more?
No, I can, yeah, I'm done, but you can keep going.
All right, well, the program started about 3 years ago with the Fox Lake Preservation Organization and the Lake District partnered to actually give farmers seed. And that got to be quite involved. The district had to pay for the seed and actually had to deliver the seed to farmers. And as interest grew, we decided to change the program by just paying farmers so much an acre rather than actually bringing them out seed. And then as the program evolved farther, we decided to have an incentive program where if a farmer did more practices than just covers, they would get paid more per acre. And even if they got or closer to the lake, there was a special area where they would also receive an added incentive because of the location of their farm. Keep going, Tracy.
Thank you, Dale. So some of the advantages of using cover crops, obviously, our cover crops are grown to protect the soil from washing away and to enhance the ability of the soil to support crops and infiltrate the water, which Dale will touch a little bit further into more detail as we go here. Soil is also healthier and more productive when it's home to living roots and isn't left bare. Healthy soil is beneficial for surrounding waterways and yields. Covers also limit weed growth and increase nutrients within the soil. Dale, do you want to go over some of the successes of the Fox Lake area cover crop and how, just in communications with other committees that you're on or area farmers, how even it has been brought to your attention that other areas would like to even potentially use?
Sure. I think the program is quite unique in that it is trying to encourage farmers to do more than the minimum practices. And in fact, the Lake Mississippi group has asked us, they actually asked to come and sit down while we plan our next year because they want to learn from it and perhaps start their own incentive program around Lake Mississippi. As on the screen here, there were 12 farmers and practically 1,600 acres that were committed to this practice last year. And we are hoping to continue the program more, and we're making adjustments as we go along. Next slide. This is the map that we started out with, and we will always be making adjustments to it. We wanted to include the farms that would have the most impact on the lake with cover crops. And so we offered a higher payment for the ones real close to the farm. The outline layers were still going to be included, but the payment would not be quite as much. And we sent flyers and letters and got the word out by mouth. And we even hired a crop consultant to try to educate farmers that this program was available. As a farmer, it's hard to convince farmers to try something new. In fact, it's almost impossible. Our hope is that by providing money to the farmers, they'd be more willing to try it on their own farm and not take on such a financial risk. And we're hoping that as farmers try this with guidance, be successful, that they will continue to do this year after year. Next slide. This is a water infiltration test that I did on our own soil within the Fox Lake area. It was done on a plano silt loam soil, which is a very, very well-drained soil, a very forgiving soil. Some soils would show a more rapid response than this soil did. In this particular, we did an infiltration test. If you look at the picture to the right, you'll see that small tube where you pour a bottle of water in it. It's supposed to represent 1 inch of rainfall. So in the fence line of our field, which had no tillage done because it was a fence line, a 1 inch rainfall infiltrated in 47 seconds. On the cropland, that 1 inch rainfall took almost 3 times as long, 1 minute and 55 seconds. Well, then shortly after, you add another bottle, which would simulate a 2 inch rainfall, and the fence line infiltrated in 2 minutes and 36 seconds, where the field took 7 and almost 7.5 minutes to infiltrate. And if you had a 3 inch rainfall, it would go on, and the cropland would have even much poorer infiltration. So making your soil healthier will make your soil infiltrate better, i.e. that means less runoff into the lake and streams around Fox Lake. Anything else, Tracy? You can go ahead to the next slide. These are a couple slides of my own farm. The slide to the right is crimson clover growing. The lake in the back is not Fox Lake, but that's Beaver Dam Lake. This particular cover crop actually overwintered. It wasn't supposed to, but it did. And we like to plant green in the cover crop. And if you look at the bottom left, we are actually drilling winter wheat into green clover that was planted during the summer. And that winter wheat crop will be harvested next year, followed by another cover crop of clover and radishes, which you see above. Radishes provide soil tillage without doing tillage. And the clover provides nitrogen for your next crop. So I don't have anything else. If there's any questions, do you have anything, Tracy?
Thank you, Dale. That was great. I don't have any.
Tracy, you're kind of breaking up a little bit for us. So if that's all right, if that's okay with you, Dale, we do have a couple questions that came in for you, or well, from your perspective, I think would be great if we want to take a little bit to answer some of those questions.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. So one that came in was, and actually maybe Tracy, if you're back in as well, there was a question of what was the response of farmers to some of the farmers getting paid more than others. So within the structure of the incentive program, it was, you know, some people were mapped out as $30 an acre, some were 15. Dale, I see you smiling. So tell me more about that.
Well, I was in the district and didn't even apply because I felt guilty. And Tracy did most of the dealing with the farmers, so she best answer that.
Sure. Well, this, as Dale shared on one of the slides, this program is, you know, we're learning more each and every year. We're only about, like I said, 3 years in, and the first year was actually
We delivered seed in person. And
can you keep going on that, Dale, and pick up where Tracy left off, maybe?
well, like I said before, delivering that seed in person, we had to actually go out and purchase the seed, and we had to find a place to store it, and then we actually had to deliver it, and then it may not have been what a farmer actually wanted. So we found it just better to pay the farmer and let them buy their own seed. And we didn't have as much problem as you would think with the diverse payments, because the map already showed, you know, who would get paid more. So if you happen to fall out, you were out. I mean, it was we're not showing any preference. It just happened to be where your farm was.
Yeah. Tracy, maybe you are back with us. I see you got kicked out of the Zoom and back in.
I'm sorry, my Wi-Fi is not cooperating. So yeah, we're learning as we go, and we're also
There it goes again.
Yep. You know what? Actually, why don't we move on to the next question? Because Dale, I think this is mainly geared towards you. As a farmer, what can agency employees do to better build trust and relationships?
You know, that's a very good question. You said local agencies. That's a hard one, because I just attended a land and water conference breakout where they were talking about who farmers trust. And local government was not one of them. So, and you would think they would trust other farmers, but they were just in the middle of the pack. Who they trust most was crop consultants. So they provide a valuable asset. You know, I don't know, for some reason, farmers seem to trust their own crop consultants because they have a vested interest in keeping them happy. And also surprising for me was that land and water employees and NRCS employees were highly thought of too by farmers. So these people are helping immensely. If farmers can trust them, they will guide them down the right path and learn that these new practices don't have to be so scary. They can actually benefit your farm more than hurt them.
Great, great. Thank you. Thank you. So I guess just there was also a question. I guess, Dale, this is more specific to you, but just in your management with adding cover crops or and tilling less, how does your weed management program look like? How has it changed with these practices?
It really hasn't changed that much. The timing probably has changed more than anything. We prefer now to plant green, and I'm a green one at this. I haven't done it that long, but I find it interesting that my son, who has never attended any of these meetings or anything, but he does the planting, says, we got to get the cover crop taller. We got to get more cover crops planted because it made the ease of planting so much easier for him. And we're no longer that excited about killing the crop off so soon, the cover crop. For soybeans, we'll let it grow for 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks after we plant. Corn, we especially early in the season, we can let go at least a week before we try to kill it off. So it actually helps your weed control because the covers actually provide weed suppression early in the season.
Sure.
And my main concern now is not putting on herbicides so late that it affects your covers for the next year. That's the harder part that we're trying to learn from.
And Dale, just so for folks who are tuning in, could you define what planting green is?
Well, planting green is when you establish your cover crop in the fall and it overwinters and it starts growing in the spring and it's green.
Okay, thank you for that. So I do see that we have, we still do have a few questions, but I just want to make sure that we have time for Craig's talk. So thank you, Dale and Tracy, so much for talking about the program and the involvement of that program over the past few years. So now I do want to welcome Craig Ficenec with the SandCounty Foundation. He will be talking about prairie strips within a farm in Dodge County, just outside of Beaver Dam, and the opportunities that can provide for soil conservation, but also for water quality. So Craig, thank you, and feel free to share your screen.
Okay, give me a second here. All right, do you see my presentation okay? And do you hear me okay?
I can hear you. It's still kind of loading on my end, so.
Okay, just in time for my turn, I got the note on my computer that said my connection was a little unstable. So let me try this one more time.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, do you see it now?
I do, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm Craig Ficenec with SandCounty Foundation. We're a conservation nonprofit organization. We're based in Madison. Our mission is to support private landowners, especially farmers and ranchers, to be ethical stewards of the land in their care, And if you're familiar with the Leopold Conservation Award, that's a program we oversee. It's awarded to a farmer annually in Wisconsin, but also about 20 other states from coast to coast. And we also work on the ground in watershed projects, and we like to help farmers test and demonstrate and research emerging new conservation practices. And one of those is prairie filter strips. So I'm going to give a few minutes of a rundown of the practice itself. And then I'll talk specifically about one of the farmers we worked with in Dodge County to get this the first installation of this practice within the Rock River Basin as we know it. Okay, now hopefully this video will run. So what is a prairie strip? Well, we know what buffer strips and filter strips are. And Michelle, if you don't see the video running, let me know. But here you see a 25-foot wide prairie strip. This is the 4th year of growth, planted more or less on the contour of a cash grain and hay farm in Washington County. So you see those 2 parallel contour strips at the bottom, and then behind that tree line, you see a straight line prairie strip in the next field. And you know, part of the design here is obviously you're putting the strips in the field to catch the runoff, but you're trying to approximate the contour where you can, but you're really making this farmable for the operator. So, you know, the width of the space from where the prairie strip is in the neighboring crops, it's made to allow for the width of the equipment, the planting equipment, the spraying equipment. You know, that's why we have options to do it on a contour or to do it in a straight line. A lot of this really originates out of Iowa State University. They are the pioneers of studying this practice over 10 years now. They call it strips. And on the left, this is some of the research they've done. So here's a flume where they're doing, you know, research grade monitoring of a no-till corn soybean rotation. So several acres of the field captured a small catchment in the flume. This was a 4-inch rain event in 2008. So you would expect quite a lot of runoff, but you know, here you see on the left what happens under a field of pure, you know, corn soybean rotation. Given and granted, this is a pretty extreme event with 4 inches of rain. On the right, that's a control catchment a few miles away in a pure prairie area. So you see some pretty clear water. But what's interesting, and the point of all this research, is what's in the middle. If you maintain 90% of a catchment in the corn soybean rotation, and you put 10%, so you're taking 10% out of the land out of production, you're putting it into prairie as a contour strip or even at the base of the outflow. And you know, 90% crop, 10% prairie. The theory here is disproportionate benefits, that a little prairie will go a long way. That if you you know, you might get much more than 10% reductions if you put just 10% into prairie within the row crops. And here is over 10 years of research. Here are their results, which are pretty impressive. First of all, about more than a third reduction in the volume of water runoff due to more infiltration through the prairie strips, 95% reduction in sediment loss. So that, and this is kind of before you get gullies or ephemeral erosion, more of that sheet flow is capturing that sediment and keeping it in that prairie strip. And with that comes a lot of reduction in total phosphorus and in nitrogen, both on the surface and in the shallow subsurface, with those roots of the prairie taking up nitrates. They're also measuring significant increases in soil organic matter for carbon sequestration. And they're doing a lot of research on habitat. So 3 times or more greater abundance of pollinators, as well as more species, likewise similar increases with grassland bird increases. And they're doing all kinds of research I can't even touch on here. So that prairiestrips.org is a great website to go look at what's going on at Iowa State. And we're just trying to spread that into Wisconsin, and starting with these producer-led watershed groups, which is a great avenue to try to, you know, to try out new practices. Again, the layout in the field, this is another Iowa State site, but you see kind of what it looks like at maturity. You know, it's not exactly on the contour, it approximates the contour. It's meant for the farm operator to be able to move the equipment between the strips, you know, without interrupting too much their otherwise layout of the operation. And, you know, just to repeat, like why prairie? Because we're used to maybe buffers of cool season grass. But the prairie vegetation has a lot of advantages. It has these very stiff, upright stems that stay upright when the water flows. It has deep roots to grab the groundwater and the fertilizer that might be, otherwise leaching. It's a perennial species. They are all perennial species, the grasses and forbs. So they're there all year, and especially in times like March. Fortunately, we didn't have a lot of heavy rain on our snowmelt, but when you have those kind of events, if you have a perennial cover, before the cover crop is really growing well in the spring, it's an extra line of defense against runoff. And because we use 30 to 40 species of grasses and forbs, there's diversity. We know nature fills a niche, and no matter what variations there are in the soil or how it was seeded, or the weather, there's always some species that are going to fill the niche and have constant vegetation cover if these strips are properly established. So as we were discussing with cover crops, a new practice takes some time to learn and understand and prove how well it will work or not. So farmers need to, it's an investment of time and effort. And that's why we try to support them. Prairie seed comes in these mixed bags it takes a special kind of drill for native seeds, as some of you may know, for the small hard seeds and the large fluffy seeds. So there's the need for specialized equipment to seed the prairie. It's seeded in specific times of the year, either the spring or the fall. So typically May and June is a good time. And in these pictures of the Washington County farm, you see seeding the strips with a drill after the crops have been in, and an area was left out of seeding crops. And then after that, the prairie is seeded. And in the bottom left, we had a different strip we tried with an ATV seeder that we borrowed from Wings Over Wisconsin, and that was successful as well. Late fall, here's the Dodge County farm example on the right. That was planted in December a couple of years ago. So really it's dormant seeding, we call it, and the seed stays in the ground, drilled very shallow into the ground, and those forb seeds actually stratify, or they get that cold, moist winter period they naturally need to tell them to germinate in the spring. So that's planted into the residue of a prior, actually, barley crop. And there's a saying about growing prairie: is the first year it sleeps, the second year it creeps, and the third year it leaps. So the first year, you don't see any of the prairie seed hardly at all. This is shortly after seeding. You see lamb's quarters, you see annual weeds. This is kind of messy, and it requires extra management. So the farmers needs to mow. Frequent mowing is how we manage these in the first year. And this is just before the mowing happened, to keep the weeds under control. And maybe late in that first year, you'll see, the black-eyed Susans we like to, because, at least maybe one of them will show up in the fall, and you can have something to verify that, yes, there are native forb species growing, a little reassurance that things worked, and that it's not just a big mess of weeds. In the second year, it creeps, as we say. So you have more diversity, you see more species. They're not growing so tall yet. This is still mowed a couple of times in the second year. But this is the same picture as that. So you see in the second year, it starts looking more manageable. And then in the third year, it leaps generally. And this is what a lot of them look like 3-4 years into it. Yellow coneflower, monarda, creeping, Canada wild rye as a grass species there. And then it'll continue to evolve. In 5 and 10 years, you'll see other species that are later to come along in the prairie ecology, because there are like 30 to 35 forb species that were seeded. And we also try, for habitat benefit, to have early, late in species that bloom throughout the season, early, middle, and late season. So it maximizes the pollinator and monarch butterfly habitat as well. So we've worked with about 10 farmers so far, with multiple partners: Valley Stewardship Network in Vernon County. Some of the counties have helped, Pheasants Forever, Wings Over Wisconsin, and then Dodge County and Rock County are the 2 farmers in our basin that have installed this farm. So I'm going to profile the project we did in Dodge County with Charlie Hammer and Nancy Kavazanijian. They farm about 1,900 acres in northwestern Dodge County. and they grow corn and soybeans and small grains. They use no-till, they use strip-till. They've been doing that for a long time. They've done prairie planting before in some other parts of the farm, and they're part of the Dodge County farmer-led group. They've hosted field events. Nancy has been on the United Soy Board and U.S. Farmer Rancher and Alliance Board. They're very active, very cooperative, and it's been great working with them. I'm going to show about a minute of a video here, and just to explain, we talked about crop consultants and the trust farmers have in crop consultants. And as I was looking for farmers willing to try this practice and work with us in the Rock River Basin, I met Bill Stengel, who's the hired agronomist that advises Charlie and Nancy. And then through him, I met Charlie and Nancy. And it's, he was really an avenue, a great facilitator of trying this practice out on the farm. So I'll just let him speak for himself for a second or a minute in this video clip that I hope.
I'm an independent crop consultant. I've been working with them for many crop seasons, and I'm the eyes in the field for the most part. And prior to putting in the Prairie Strips, Charlie and Nancy have been participating in the CSP program since its inception. And one of the practices that they've incorporated has been the pollinator habitat. And I believe there's somewhere around 15 or 16 acres of pollinator habitat scattered throughout the farm on various knobs and corners and things like that.
We have tried prairie before. We're not pros at it by any means, but we started growing some pollinator habitat 5 years ago. And we did it because we have areas of our field that aren't very productive. So we have a mix of flowers and grasses that are perennials. I think we're in our 5th year now. The first year we did it, it looked terrible. And we thought, oh, what do we get ourselves into? But by the 3rd year, when we saw a field of yellow flowers, we were both so excited, taking pictures and, just so excited how beautiful it is.
That kind of opened the door for us to segue into Prairie Strips and get into this whole idea of using the prairie itself as a conservation practice, specifically for soil conservation in this case.
Okay, so going to their particular case, here's the field where they planted the strips. On the right, you can see kind of a map of the layout of the hatched lines or where the strips are. This strip here hugs a drumlin, and that's where they were having some erosion issues because of the steeper slopes along the side of the drumlin here. Also, years ago in improving a county highway, the county had taken some soil off the top of the field, and that thin soil now is much harder to manage. So the Prairie Strip is serving to capture runoff on the steeper part of this field. And then there's another one up here. Now, this was seeded late in December of 2019. So last year was the first year of any growth. And as you can see, they seeded it into a winter wheat crop and then harvested the wheat over the Prairie Strip over here. And in this part, they seeded it where they later overseeded soybeans, but then had to mow them down to let the Prairie Strips grow. At any rate, they're kind of mixing it in with their crop rotation. And, we'll see our 2nd year of growth this year. It's a 60-foot wide pair of strips. They did utilize the Conservation Reserve Program to help pay for some of that. But a lot of it they just did on their own. So they're voluntarily taking some land out of production in order to get this conservation benefit. And last summer when we were out there, this is shortly after the harvest of the winter wheat. So this is late July. And this is the sleeping and creeping going on. You see some, it doesn't look much from the aerial photo here, but you get on your knees and look down and you see what's growing underneath, and that's what in year 2 and 3 and 4 is going to, we expect, really take off. I think I have a couple minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and jump to one more farm. This is about a minute as well. It's another video we did. It's a different setting. This is in northern Rock County, and this is a large-scale organic grain farmer who planted a prairie strip with us, and then later on he used the conservation stewardship program out of NRCS to do prairie strips as a border in an organic organic grain farms. So I'm going to run this quick video just to get another type of perspective of how this practice can be used.
We're a 1,650 acre farm in northwest Rock County and Dane County, and we produce 22 different organic crops on these acres, have a very diverse rotation, including prairie buffer strips. This is our Tuttle property. It's a 175 acre field, of which we've segregated out 25 acres of wetland pothole region and put that into CRP basically a year ago. And then we also, because we're farming kind of in an ocean here of GMO and chemical farming, we also implemented prairie buffer strips and literally have framed this field. So just like a picture frame frames a picture, we have framed this field almost all the way around with a 40-foot native buffer that you can see here, and we're able to farm in conjunction with our chemical farming neighbors to produce organic crops for the market.
Oh, so there you see another example, and Prairie Strips as in the borders of fields, as well as in the fields, and that can still have a water quality benefit, but also pollinators and beneficial insects, and as you see, serving as a required organic buffer. As far as support to farmers, there is a new opportunity in the Conservation Reserve Program. This was just new last year. So 2020 was the first year that farmers could utilize Conservation Reserve Program for a specific prairie strips practice called CP43. It's not all that known about yet. So I encourage folks to inquire at their USDA Service Center, but this is a flexible program option in CRP. It can be on the edge of field or in the field, 10 to 15 years of land rental, covering establishment of the native diverse perennial cover, as we just described. So that is everything I have. Those videos, we actually have videos for 3 different farms that you've seen today. All 3 of them in full length are available at our website here, SandCounty Foundation. That should say .org/Prairie Strips. Anyway, just search SandCounty Foundation and Prairie Strips, find our website, and you can view those videos. And then also Iowa State University, again, you can find more information than you'll probably have time to read about Prairie Strips. Just search Iowa State University and Prairie Strips as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Craig. That was really great to hear about Prairie Strips, and I know we're really excited to hopefully see more out on the landscape. Just a question for you, as maybe some folks who are tuning in, maybe they are part of a lake district or lake association and maybe want to partner on a project like this. What do you feel are some opportunities for such a partnership? Do you have any ideas?
I would just say, just understand, again, we've talked about new practices, and it's not something that you can just snap your fingers and apply, the equipment, the different type of seed, the management, so I guess it starts with a conversation and understand, being flexible. Some farmers may like the native species idea, maybe some would just prefer, the cool season grass, more familiar, maybe they want to harvest it and use it as forage. But I would just say, start a conversation. And, I guess there's that, now with that cost share through the Conservation Reserve Program, I mean, that has its limit.
Just looking back to the Q&A here, and so Dale and Tracy, if you want to turn your videos back on. I think there was a few. One question, Dale, if you're still there, that came in for you. What was your experience on the various committees that made you open to giving these new practices a chance?
I'm sorry, Michelle, but Dale did have to step out.
Oh,
He-
okay.
Yeah, just about 2 minutes ago. So
Oh,
I
okay.
apologize. But if there's any other questions that I could be of assistance for, I would be happy to answer.
Okay, sorry, I got kicked off now. Just seem to be making the rounds here. Apologize about that, everyone. If anyone has any more questions, please feel free to put them in that Q&A. It looks like most of these are for Dale here, when unfortunately he had to leave. And maybe Tracy, I don't know if you can maybe talk more your Fox Lake incentive program. I know that in one of the slides you had talked about opportunities for growth and how you may be looking to make more partnerships. What do
Sure.
you think that looks like?
We're looking more partnerships and also more funding opportunities that we could incorporate more funds into that program. And so, sorry, I'm guessing that's echoing. And so we're hoping to be able to just offer more funds in the incentive that, just to keep getting more and more farmers and possibly extend that area in the future. So, and that's what I said, also just having those wonderful working relationships with those area producers and taking their feedback back into consideration has been huge. And it's promoting, just a well-working relationship and a new learning experience for us. It's just such a diverse population of my role to Dale's role, and to be able to get that everyday education, just from each unique situation, I think will only make us grow and continue to, run a well-groomed program in the future. So.
Great, thank you. So a question came in for you. A couple questions came in for you, Craig, on Prairie Strips. In terms of Prairie Strips, are there issues with drift of herbicides used, maybe, so that example in Rock County, maybe if there was some herbicides used on that neighboring farm, was there concern about drift and how that would affect the Prairie Strip?
Yes, I mean, that is a concern. I guess part of it has to do with the width of the strip. I mean, it's sort of, I guess it's up for debate. There's some risk to, the insects in the prairie strips. And there's also benefit because you're creating additional habitat. So, where's the balance in that? And if the strips have enough width that some might be impacted from, some part of it might be impacted by drift. But I mean, that's a fair question, especially in using that in that organic buffer condition. I'll say we hear that about pollinator insects. We hear questions about grassland birds and predation from, raccoons and stuff like that. But again, the wider, the better. And I guess I will just say too, in the Charlie and Nancy's farm, they're using herbicides and such, and they're managing that well. They've got kind of the GPS technology now on their equipment to automatically shut off when they drive over the strips. So they're making their effort to use that precision agriculture technology to avoid endangering the strips, and then to be conscious of wind direction and timing and all that, so that they put a lot of effort into installing them. They're going to do the best they can not to damage them.
Sure. So you mentioned a few kind of equipment specific things, and that it may differ from farm to farm. Do you see any opportunities for equipment to be shared if planting prairie strips, maybe within, obviously within reasonable distance from other farms, but do you think there's opportunities for that?
I mean, I think that's where something like these farmer-led groups are really an opportunity. I know the concurrent session here is the Economawalk Adaptive Management right now. And I know their watershed coordinator has helped organize cover crop seeding by helicopter it's probably a lot cheaper to hire a helicopter if you do it with 10 or so farmers together. And it would be more economy of scale to hire ecological restoration consultant or contractor to bring that seed drill out and do 5 or 6 farms at once. Maybe even come handle the management and the mowing, throughout the first year. And actually, I discussed that with Charlie, and he likes that idea. Maybe we'll discuss it more with the Dodge County farmers. It's a matter of finding enough acres and enough farmers who want to jump in and do this practice at the same time.
Yeah. So and maybe you can speak more onto SandCounty Foundation as well, because I know you are based in Wisconsin, but you do work very regionally as well. So what type of services do you offer to farmers, county land conservation departments, districts in some states, NRCS? Could you maybe describe what role you all play at the SandCounty Foundation?
Yeah, we're small. There's only 3 of us on our ag conservation team. So we try to be more of a catalyst. We're not creating our own cost share programs, trying to fund, dozens of farmers or implement practice at scale. So I guess we're trying to sort of seed the idea, pun intended, and help nurture it along. We're working with a group in southeastern Minnesota. We've partnered a little bit with American Farmland Trust in Illinois on the Prairie Strips, among other things. So, we're trying to just kind of get the ball rolling.
Yeah, and we're very lucky to have you working here too. SandCounty Foundation is a really great partner to have. So we appreciate you all working in this area.
Well, we're happy to be included.
Just one more question here on motivation for Prairie Strips. So as you work, and you showed a map, I know there's a few Prairie Strips in Wisconsin now, throughout the Midwest. Have you found any maybe major reason, or one number one reason why farmers are utilizing Prairie Strips as an option?
It varies. The video at the beginning with the strips, that farmer is a beekeeper. That's not his only reason, but he likes the bee habitat idea. You saw the Mark Dudla farm is more about organics and natural predators as well. Charlie and Nancy were motivated mostly by soil erosion control, but they have a love for prairie and they've tried it. They've done it before. So it's a mix. I mean, water quality is the first, I think, everyone struggles with keeping soil in place. So that's probably the primary concern, but the habitat benefits that come along with it are pretty substantial as well.
Great. All right. Well, those are the last questions that I have coming in through the Q&A. I just want to send a huge thank you to Tracy, Dale, and Craig for being with us today. We are really excited to have you all here presenting to talk about these wonderful practices that you all are helping implement on the ground and working with the farmers within Dodge County. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you everyone who is tuning in to this. We really appreciate you all listening. And if you have any questions, feel free to follow up with us after.
Thank you, Michelle, for having us.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.